Intro! I choose you! Intro uses beginning. It's super effective.
Welcome to PrinnyCast of November 3rd, 2012. Don't forget, Daylight Savings Time is November 4th. So hopefully by the time you guys have seen this, you've already changed your clocks. Or your week is really screwed up.
Yeah.
We're your hosts. I'm Chris, and this is Mike.
Hello.
And Grover.
Hello.
And we're here to entertain you with our nonsense. Want to give out a little shout out to longplays.org for all their help with getting us some footage of games that normally we couldn't get a hold of from one reason or another. Plus, it just makes my job of getting footage that much easier, though Grover and Mike's both been helping out a lot with game footage lately, so thanks, guys. And galaxypugs.com for their support and Neil giving me free games.
Free games is always good.
And don't forget to check for the description for easy links to all the parts of the show, but lately we've been doing this two-parter instead of four-parter now. Haven't gotten a lot of feedback from it, but it seems like people are really digging the new format, so we'll probably be keeping this from now on, and certainly the new resolution. So, games this week, what have we been up to? How about you, Grover?
Well, this week has been a lot of games because I've been doing a lot of recording at the same time. A lot of Dwarfs, since that was last game of the week, and I've been playing it all week long. A little bit of Skyrim. A patch came out recently that wiped out my game save. And I'm not so interested in going back to the game right now. Tower Wars. I just got that, what was it? Yeah, it was yesterday, and I've been playing the crap out of that today. Minecraft. I haven't been playing that much. I've been playing some solo, but the multiplayer Bucket just came out, was their first stable mod, and the Bucket server just came out, and we're working on that. I played some Waves, then I played some Geometry Wars, and I hate that game. I don't like Geometry Wars. And a couple hours ago, my friends got me Painkiller Hell and Damnation. And the game was really cool in the campaign. The multiplayer looked horrifying. I don't understand why. They worked really good on the campaign and they did nothing with a multiplayer. It looks like Unreal Tournament. And I was just like, what is this? And I played it for like 2 seconds and then that was that.
Well, like Serious Sam, it was mostly meant to play a lot like the older first-person shooter games. Probably just the simple stuff like Capture the Flag and Deathmatch, right? Or is it the levels being lousy?
I was expecting it to be more like Left 4 Dead, because that's what the single player is like in campaign. It's almost like, yeah, pretty much. But
so you were thinking it was going to be cooperative, and it wasn't?
Yeah, it can be, but you can only have 2 players on co-op, and there was like 7 of us wanting to play. You know what? You can't win everything.
Certainly been busy, though.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, have you actually played something besides World of Warcraft this week?
Yes, I have. I've been playing Deadlight still. It glitched out on me, started me over at the very beginning of the chapter that I was on, so I stopped playing after that, and I haven't really gone back to it. I played a little bit of New Super Mario Bros. 2 again, and again, the big winner is obviously going to be World of Warcraft, but a friend of mine bought me Katamari Damacy? I don't know how to say that.
Oh, that's one of my favorite games.
The original Katamari for PlayStation 2, and I just got it today, so I've only played it long enough to make sure it worked. So I played the intro level and, the first star, which I believe is the Jelly Star. So I played that for probably 10, 15 minutes just to get used to it. It's pretty fun, so I imagine I'll be going back to it and talking about it next week.
Sounds good. Today,
I ordered Lollipop Chainsaw on Amazon. I missed a sale that I heard they had, which is upsetting. I heard it was $19.99 for Halloween, which is about half their normal price.
Why didn't you wait for the next sale? Because they'd probably have one for Christmas.
I found a user that wasn't Amazon selling through Amazon for $24.99. I was like, $5. That's not so bad. So.
Well, it's kind of the usual 3 for me too. A lot of Congregate stuff, which I really should talk a little more about, but I have a feeling we'll probably do a show on it eventually. Smidge of Counter-Strike again. I actually got a couple of rounds in, even had a 72 to 2 kill-death ratio on a 12-game run. That was kind of nice. Yeah, it's just bots, mind you, because I can't play online, but still, bots aim really, really well. So, and then Minecraft, and I've finally gotten back to work on my island nation after almost a 7-month, maybe even longer, 7-month vacation from it, because I played a lot of single-player survival there for a while.
I've seen your island. It's mind-blowing.
It's just going to keep getting bigger. Every time they add something new to the mix, that's more I have to go back and start redeveloping to make things look even better. But my scale is all wrong of what it's supposed to be, so that's kind of Disappointing. So yeah, game news. Disney's Wreck-It Ralph debuted this weekend, a tale about an 80s video game boss who's tired of being typecast as the bad guy he's not and goes on a romp through other games to find himself. Lots of cameos from characters all over the gaming spectrum. He'll also appear as a selectable racer in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed out later this month, with the handheld releases for Vita and 3DS early next month. And speaking of the media giant, Disney, as if nobody knows this yet, its purchase of Lucasfilm for $4 billion. This includes full rights to Star Wars and Indiana Jones, along with Industrial Light and Magic and Skywalker Sound, two of the most highly respected movie support teams there is, plus the gaming studio of LucasArts, which has had some questionable trouble in these last recent years, but are not only famous for the adaptations of the two franchises, but original properties like Armed and Dangerous, Thrillville, Mercenaries, and of course the classic Monkey Island series and all those other wonderful adventure games that they did during the 90s, just to name a few. It's still early to tell what's going to happen, aside from the acknowledgement of definitely a new Star Wars movie trilogy, with a 2015 target date, which is actually rather close for them not to even really started yet, and that the successful Star Wars Clone Wars TV series will continue undisturbed for now. And just what will Lucas do, who practically owned that entire stock of all those companies? What is he going to do with that $4 billion, since he's already set for life as it is? Well, apparently a great deal of it is going to charities and his George Lucas Educational Foundation, so there's a big shot in the arm to a lot of people. And probably to the government too, since Taxes is going to take their fair share out of it. And Halo 4, its soundtrack tops the charts for video game music, hitting number 50 on the Billboard 200 list, which is of course all music, and it breaks the former record of 2007's Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock companion pack, which topped out at number 107. So video game music is actually on the top 50 of the Billboard 200 list. For me, that's yes, long time coming. We talk about Kickstarter a lot. Now it appears that it's reaching a new branch in England. Major difference is that they will use its own secure money exchange system rather than using the Amazon payments this time around. Otherwise, it's basically the exact same formula that's making it successful over here on bringing it to Europe, or at least British people.
Well, they were complaining that they couldn't. I mean, I think they could, but it involved a bunch of loop arounds and whatever.
I imagine there's a lot of legal issues with making things international like that. Probably funding international is different, but starting the project internationally is complicated. And the last little bit of news.
MechWarrior Online has started its open beta, and it's free. You can go ahead and go over and sign up and start playing as soon as you download the game. And that's all I have.
Kind of curious how it and Hawkins going to be duking it out.
That's true. You know, if I had to choose between them, I would almost certainly go with MechWarrior. It's just, I've got brand loyalty.
Well, I've been invited to a couple of different stages of Hawkins' development, but I haven't participated because I've been so busy with WoW. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Hawkins, though. I haven't really played much MechWarrior. It's one of those games that I've always seen, never really played.
I played the one for the Genesis, and I played the demo for MechWarrior 2. I think it might even have been the expansion pack. It was somewhere around that 1998 timeline when I was first had my computer and I was trying to figure out what was good out there, so I was subscribed to some of those gaming magazines that would give you the free demo discs. Man, I miss those. Of course, you can download them now, but really wasn't a lot of WoW news this week, so I guess Mike doesn't have a segment this time.
Just a bunch of bug fixes, class changes. I mean, one of them really does affect me, but if I start talking about it, I'll go on a tirade, so...
So another new segment we're going to be adding is just a quick mention of all the game releases that should be coming out somewhere between a few days before our recording to a few days around our next recording. So basically, a week. So starting November 2nd, which was Friday, Metal Gear Rising came out for PS3. I didn't realize it was that soon. I thought that was going to be in development for another couple months, but boom, there it is. And we got Crazy Machines Everything Pack on Steam, Gemini Wars for Steam, Sleeping Dogs Ghost Pig is a free DLC. I can only find it for Steam, but I'm going to assume that it's for 360 and PS3. Now, November 6th is a very big day for 360 fans. Halo 4. And probably that is the only thing that really matters that week. But all the same, we got Chaos on Deponia for PC. We have the Mass Effect Trilogy launched for PC, 360, and Wii U. which I'm kind of confused about because that's a week early. Is somebody going to buy the game and just for the sake of having it early, or was that a typo on their launch dates?
I imagine it was a typo.
NASCAR the game inside line for Wii, PS3, and 360. Got Saints Row the Third, the full package, which is basically Saints Row the Third with all of its DLC for 360 and PS3. Rayman Origins comes to the 3DS. Ragnarok Tactics from the Ragnarok Online series comes to the PSP. Midway Arcade Legends comes to PS3 and 360. History Legends of War Patton comes on PC, PS3, and 360. Big Time Rush, I'm sure everybody's waiting for Big Time Rush, for Dance Party for Wii, and the Big Time Rush Backstage Pass for 3DS. And lastly but not least is Little Big Planet Karting for the PS3. That's a busy Tuesday. And that's not even including some of the lesser titles that I'm sure comes out and I just don't have information on. November 8th, which is Thursday, is scheduled for Pokemon 3D Pro for the 3DS. And November 9th, Friday, is Dragon Ball Z Budokai HD Collection for the 360 and PS3, which basically has Budokai 1 and Budokai 3 remixed into an HD collection. And I actually understand there is some controversy with the writer of the music behind the Dragon Ball Z Kai series, who's apparently plagiarized some of his music. So the soundtracks to Budokai 1, anyway, is being remixed with current music from the redone version of Dragon Ball Z Kai and the later games, like Tenkaichi. Curious. And Grover, you got us another Game of the Week.
This week's Game of the Week is Tower Wars. Tower Wars is a new and unique spin on the competitive multiplayer tower defense genre. This game combines elements of tower defense, real-time strategy, and all-out multiplayer mayhem to bring you to a completely new, unique experience in the tower defense genre. Tower Wars was developed and published by Supervillain Studios and was released on August 14, 2012. The game is still pretty new, and you can kind of tell that when you play. It doesn't seem like they've worked out all the things that are wrong yet. But yeah, if you like tower or defense games, you'll love Tower Wars. But be warned, this game is evil. This game is crazy hard. I went to this game thinking, oh, this is tower defense. You know, I play it on Congregate all the time. I'm gonna kick some ass. I got my butt handed to me. I got annihilated. I didn't last 9 minutes the first time I played. It was just mind blowing how cutthroat the game was. And that's just single player. Multiplayer is even worse. It can become just insane. There's so many turrets, and then you add the real-time strategy that you're the one that's sending the units to the other player. There is no computerized units coming and going. You send them. And if you run out of resources, you can't send. If you can't send, they'll keep sending, and you'll die.
I don't imagine you actually control the characters themselves, otherwise there wouldn't be much in the way of tower defense, because it's largely about characters going in a line.
Yeah, you warrior them up, and when you get the resources that you need, you send them out. And that's just it. You need to be gathering resources. You can quickly be overwhelmed or go too fast in the beginning of the game and screw yourself, or get ahead and then stagnate and give the opponent time to catch up and get ahead of you. And
so you have to balance between your attack and your defense.
Mm-hmm. And you got to worry about your economy at the same time, so there's 3 parts of it.
When you first talked about it to me, the first thing that came to mind was Super Puzzle Fighter, where when you did well, you would send all the stuff to your other opponent's screen. That's kind of how I pictured it.
That's exactly what it's like. This is a tower defense version.
And it must have impressed you for it to have been your game of the week with only about not even really 24 hours of playing it.
Yeah, and I've been looking for one too. Then somebody was like, "Why don't you do a tower defense game?" And I was just like, "I don't have a tower defense game." And they're like, "Well, here you go." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And yeah, and that reminds me, from now on with a game of the week, I will be posting footage of that game every day. I have been doing so with Dwarfs, because it was the game of the week last week. So every single day I post some stuff and I put it on my YouTube page, and basically it's me playing and getting better or failing horribly. And I'll keep doing that until this video is released, and then I will switch to Tower Wars, and then I will do that until the next video, and then I will switch to whatever our game of the week is next.
Cool. We'll link you to his page so you guys can subscribe to him and keep up on what he's playing.
If any fans are interested in playing out the game of the week and putting it on their channel, go ahead and send me a message, and maybe we'll show you playing on the video and our PrinnyCast.
Sure. So our topic today is immersion in video games, as if you couldn't tell by the title up there. Now this is something Mike's actually been wanting to get hold of for almost 3 weeks now, but there's always been something a little more poignant at the time, yeah, especially last week being holiday. But finally, we're getting into it.
Yay!
So, immersion in video games. It sounds like it makes sense just to say it, but Psychology Today called it a lack of incongruous visual cues in a game world, a consistent behavior from things in a game world, an unbroken presentation of the game world, and interactivity with items in the game world. Do you guys pretty much agree that is everything immersion is about?
A game that drags you in. Did I just spend 19 hours playing this? The Anno series. Anno 1404, Anno 2070. I've got dragged into that, and I remember I was playing multiplayer, was nil, and I think we played 20 hours, and that's in a row. That's nonstop. And at 16 hours, every 2 hours, they'll say, maybe it's time to take a break, or maybe you should have a cup of tea. And at 16 hours, the person says, "This can't be healthy," and it does its autosave, and then it doesn't say anything else after that.
Should have won an achievement for that.
Yeah, you should get an achievement.
No, then everybody would be playing it for 16 hours to try to get it.
They're afraid that someone will die.
Achievement.
But did you guys play it that long because you just enjoyed it? Or was it something in the game that drew you in?
We enjoyed it that much. We would just... And it's a simulator. All we do is build and grow our stuff and make our cities bigger, and we're both I'm a simulation player at least, and we just got drawn in, and we would just go crazy.
Well, a game doesn't necessarily have to be immersive to be enjoyable, obviously, because there's nothing really immersive about the likes of Pac-Man. Some people might disagree with me on that one, but for the most part, if you have a simple game with a simple idea, and it's more about just enjoying it, Counter-Strike might be a good place to go with this one. There's nothing particularly immersive about it. So, it's a matter of hopping into the game, usually with other players, and the immersion is there only enough to make you understand the goals. So, because there's all these kill-death ratios, and there's scores, and there's people chatting everywhere, and you've got all these other things going on, it doesn't really pull you in that way. It pulls you in on an enjoyment level. The sounds are fine, the graphics are usually fine, it depends on what era you're playing it in, I'm sure. But for the most part, there's nothing really there to tug you along and make you feel inside the game, if I've kind of made the case there.
Is there any music in Counter-Strike?
No.
No, okay, well...
That can actually help sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes.
you're playing part of the game and, music begins, and you're really drawn in. The game really focuses you into the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thoughts of immersion.
There's several different ways to take immersion, too. It can be through the visuals, it can be through the sound, it can be through the story elements, and it can definitely be through the controllers, too. That's part of why motion controllers like the Wii and the Move and the Kinect and the iToy and all of these controllers that's come out over the year. The U-Force. Wow.
Yeah.
The Power Glove. That's why they're so popular, is they're trying to bring a new angle for immersion of players. Steering wheels, for example, those have always been a big deal, and analog sticks has kind of revolutionized gaming in a very quiet way.
I've always had that if the controls are bad in a game, I can't get immersed in it, because I'm just so worried about the damn controls.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not being able to control your character properly is pretty game-breaking as far as immersion goes.
I can't exactly get immersed when I can't stop my character from driving off a cliff or falling off a cliff or getting murdered because I can't control what I'm doing completely.
Well, last week when I was playing Amnesia for our Halloween episode, I found that game to be pretty immersive.
Oh yes.
That game, it does a really, really good job on its delivery. There's a lot of detail in the environment, the sounds that your character makes, the noise that's going on around you if you have headphones on really is stereo. It's from the direction it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think any horror game should drag you in like that. That you should be 1000% focused on the game.
That ability for it to be, able to draw you in is part of what makes it so scary.
Mm-hmm.
If that game wasn't as immersive as it is, I don't think as many people would say, yeah, that's a scary game.
I think that's how it should be for horror games.
Yeah.
And I think just to startle you too, like in Resident Evil when you're running around in those games, because of course Resident Evil is kind of a puzzle game too, because you got to run around and find crap, and usually you become so immersed in trying to find out what you need to do next that you just honestly get startled when when the zombies come at you or something comes through the window.
Something I've noticed about the Resident Evil games, aside from the fact that they're them and Final Fantasy VII are pretty much some of the games that started the whole cinematic angles, largely because they were pre-rendered the way they were, so they had to be in one particular camera view, but a lot of the immersive qualities with the Resident Evil series seems to vary by the player. Depending on what game they played first is often the one they'll feel the more immersive, and the rest of them less so. So the people who started off with the original Resident Evil had that kind of nostalgic immersiveness because they played it before a lot of these other technological advancements had happened. So as far as horror games concerned, it was pretty much the scariest, the creepiest, the most ambient game there was.
I started with was Resident Evil 2, and I really liked that game. And then I went back to the first one because everybody's like, "Oh, you should play the first one." And honestly, I liked the first one better immediately, even though it was slightly outdated when I played it. I was just like, "Wow, the first one's way better."
The first one, the first Resident Evil was the first one I played, and I didn't like it as much as Resident Evil 2. I loved Resident Evil 2. Yeah, that's probably, until 4 came out, that was my favorite Resident Evil game. It might still be. It's a toss-up between that and 4.
In all honesty, Code Veronica was my favorite one.
See, that was my girlfriend's favorite one too, and maybe it's because I didn't play it very much, but I'm told that was the last.
Almost proving my point too.
Yeah, maybe.
Because those are basically the three different eras: the original trilogy, Code Veronica, and then Resident Evil 4. Those are basically the three different generations. Nobody really talks about 3. Aside from Nemesis, it was more of the same.
Yeah.
Or
it was forgettable.
IT or whatever.
I never even beat 3. I lost interest.
I never did get to beat that one either.
That's what happened to me. I mean, it was cool that he could break through the walls and stuff, but I was like, oh, that's a nifty little thing they put in there, and then I promptly forgot.
Yeah.
But it's basically the era of the original trilogy, Code Veronica, which somehow stands alone by itself. I think it's because it's really the only bridge between the original trilogy and 4. Because nobody's going to include the stuff like Gun Hazard and Resident Evil Outbreak yet.
And then they had those really bad gun. I don't remember the name of it, but
Gun
it was
Survivor was one of the series, and then there was
it was like if you were a light gun or whatever, but there was no light gun. Yeah, I didn't like that game. Well, I think Code Veronica stands out by itself because it was the only one that was released on Dreamcast.
That's true too.
It was on Dreamcast for a long time before they finally put it on PS2.
That's why I had it on Dreamcast.
Yeah. See, I never bought a Dreamcast. I never owned one. So the first chance I got to play that game was for the PlayStation 2. And I didn't play it very often. I was suffering from Resident Evil burnout at the time.
Well, we were speaking about light gun games. So, in the arcade, and of course the NES Zapper, were both considered pretty much a mainstay in the 80s. And they were amazing to me too, even though the novelty wore off pretty quickly. Simply because it was probably one of the most used gimmick accessories. Just about every system had one. The Master System had one, the Genesis had its Minister, the Super Nintendo had the Super Scope 6. Everybody had one of these zappers in some form or the other. Some of them had third-party stuff. Even the PlayStation had the gun cons. PlayStation 2 had the gun con 2s. And the whole thing against guns and violence, largely because of Columbine, you don't see those too much anymore. Most of them are either mouse-driven or controller-driven. But, having a actual weapon in your hand to fire at the screen, I count that as an immersion thing.
I had the Super Scope 6, and that was very fun. Putting that thing on your shoulder like you had a bazooka, and just firing was just a blast.
Literally.
Literally. Only 4 games came out for it, but I played that to death, and I don't even know the names of the games except for that Yoshi game. Yoshi Safari, was that it?
Battle Clash.
Metal.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Then they had that multi-game where they had the missiles that flew by and the little moles that popped up out of the ground. That was the one I played the crap at.
Then there was the arcades themselves. Mike was talking about the Terminator 2 just the week before last, I think, actually. But, it was originally one of those gun games, too. And in the arcades, they had these great big mimic replicas of a lot of the guns they're supposed to be. Crossbow had a crossbow. Terminator 2 had those laser-looking Uzi things. Some of them have freestanding revolvers. I guess those are really the oldest ones, because those go back almost as far back as the old pellet gun stuff. Because I remember back in the early 80s when they had those skeet shoot and duck hunt style shooting ranges, where there was this gigantic screen in front of you with really primitive graphics, and you stood, about 6 feet back. You don't see too many of those.
I remember that. Well, I don't remember it because I was barely alive at the time, because I was barely,
Make me feel old. Thank you.
Less than one.
But that brings us to another point about the deluxe arcade cabinets back in the day. The big racing games with their sit-down and steering wheels. And it wasn't just racing games either. There was a lot of air combat games like Afterburner. There's a lot of people who remember Afterburner. Matter of fact, there seems like there was a variation of it that was actually on a gyro that would tilt as your plane did, if I remember right. I know that's not the only game that ever did that. And Hard Driving, if anybody remembers Hard Driving and Race Driving, they actually had the speakers in the seat, so anytime you went off-road, you would feel it underneath of you.
Oh my god.
They've even tried to recreate some of that stuff with gamer chairs.
I never really liked the gamer chairs.
I remember the wave racing game. I don't remember the name of it, but was it Hydro Thunder?
Yes.
Yeah, it had like air that would blow on your face or whatever, so that it felt like you were actually, I don't know that I would have called that one particularly immersive, because you knew where it was coming from.
That's still part of the attempt of them to pull you in. Whether it was successful or not, that's a different story. Some of them use multiple monitors to position around you, so you would lose less of your depth perception. Of course, some of the multi-monitor games are just plain cool anyway, like the 6-player X-Men. It's like playing on a movie screen when you're not used to it.